right, thanks, Matthias. Yeah, as Matthias mentioned, Leon unfortunately can't be here for personal reasons, so we are taking over for him. But we have about a 2-hour head start on those slides on you, so bear with us and excuse any stumbling, but I'm sure we'll manage. Yeah, we want to tell you a little bit about usability tests of ILIAS 10. We have done over the last few weeks, particularly usability tests regarding OER processes, so content sharing processes. I guess I should start off by telling you a bit about the project under which this all runs. It's called BW OER Connect. It's run by 3 universities from Baden-Württemberg, Tübingen, Freiburg, and Heidelberg, and it not only concerns ILIAS, but it also concerns edu sharing and Moodle. So it's kind of an overarching process over different learning management systems, which is very sensible because it deals with content sharing. So we want those systems to talk to each other. But we are here to talk mostly about the ILIAS side of it all. Yeah, and on the ILIAS side, the project has been running since July last year and will be running till the end of this year. So we have some ways to go, but we also already put quite some time into this project. So let's catch you up on what has already happened. So first of all, we started by evaluating previous projects. For ILIAS, there was a pretty large relevant project which we did for ILIAS 10 with financing from FH Dortmund, and we from Lifeforce implemented it. It was called OER-freundliche Infrastruktur für ILIAS, OER-friendly infrastructure in ILIAS. And yeah, I hope most of you are somewhat aware of what we did here. I gave a talk about it yesterday for those who attended ILIAS NRW. But if not, you should be able to follow along just fine. Yeah, a big part of the project is also community work. So we want the community to get involved. On the ILIAS side, this is mostly done via the SIG OER, which is, yeah, it's a special interest group which deals with content sharing and OER and all that stuff. And there we repeatedly talk about the state of the art of the project and ask questions about how we think we should proceed and if that's okay with the community and all that stuff. So I guess a bit early for an ad break, but I'll do it anyway. If you are interested in what is going on in ILIAS with regard to OER, feel free to come to the next meeting of the SIG. I think it's on the 18th of June. All right. Yeah. Also under the umbrella of this project, some of the people working on it, Leon and also his Moodle counterpart, have done some training to be able to undertake usability tests properly. I think it's CPUX. Is that the? Yeah. It was the CPUX training. Some of you might be familiar with it. And yeah, so designing usability tests is not trivial. There are many errors one can do, which basically invalidates the whole thing. So it's good that that we got on some solid footing within this project to be able to proceed with this usability tests. All the usability tests take place on a test platform set up by the Uni Freiburg, which is configured in such a way that all the OER processes that we want to test run as smoothly as possible. Yeah, and then we started testing, and Alexandra will tell you all about that.
Yeah, we started early in ILIAS 10 as good as we could to prepare test data, recruiting participants for our tests. We gathered altogether we carried out 4 tests, and we created test questions and then crashed in the pilot session badly. So it's always advisable to have a pilot session. In the pilot session, everything went wrong that could possibly get wrong. And then we reworked the tasks, the test data, and also time was on our side because as ILIAS 10 Alpha progressed a little and matured, this testing process also got easier, and we carried out tests online. We always had 2 people observing and taking note. No video footage was taken because this way we could avoid all the privacy-related issues we had if we kept the videos. And we then compared notes afterwards, and only those findings that both people made went into the data collection we used for capturing it. And we also took a different approach for the bits in the administration, which are not user-facing. So for the cron job, for the settings for the OAI PMH interface, it's difficult to make a user testing for this one. So we did a heuristic evaluation for that one. So we basically gathered and criteria-based went through all these screens and suggested improvements for that one. And yeah. Yeah, this is the platform we started testing on, and so we had different tasks. We kannst du ja BW OER Connect, please. Okay, so we had different tasks. We asked people to investigate whether or not they could determine the license under which something was published. We took a view if they were able to locate the right tab and could tell us in time to be expected what the actual license choice was made. And then we asked them also in another task to add additional metadata, and that case was a total fail. Nobody found the bulky button, so this was really, it didn't work. So then another one was to actually try to change the, in a learning module, that's also part of this course, in this learning module to change the metadata of a page. So this is already advanced magic. And so we tried to get through the process of either getting an OER learning resource and determining and understanding what you were able to do with it, or working with your resource and putting it under a different license, under an OER license. And then as another step, we have to go back to actually understand if they, to make it available. So to create an export and make it publicly available, and if they were able to understand that they had to open the export tab, create an export, and then set it public. And so there were different bits of receiving and publishing OER data, and we have seen several issues. And we gathered them in a data collection somewhere in the SIG for OER. So everything that we found, at least 2 people have seen somebody hesitating or stumbling. So we have listed it here, all our findings and the suggestions that we have worked on. Most of this was minor changes, so we didn't like make huge systematic changes to the system, obviously. We mostly tweaked the UI elements, exchanging one for another, tweaked the labels and made changes. So we could, so like this is German, the full LOM metadata editor overwhelms people. This is something we've seen time and again. And so we had derived from this several different, from this finding, we had several suggestions that we found, and some of them really need some new features, but most of the stuff we found, we just moved into bugs, and then Tim did work on it, and maybe you can show it. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, with the heuristic evaluation, we went in together, 2 people, Nielsen criteria based, through all the screens in the administration that need to be touched if somebody want to fully automate the OER publishing. And we went through this, and no, we were 3 people, yeah, sorry. And then we tried to identify proper wording, better stacking of the forms, more informative labels, less technical lingo, something like that.
Yeah, I guess I can show you a few results we have implemented already from these usability tests. Oh, we have a good example here already. This is a new feature in 10, so you probably won't be able to spot a difference. But in the original implementation of this feature, the download button was a download link, and it was below the copyright. And it basically disappeared completely. No one was able to spot it. So we made it a button, we moved it up, and then people were able to see it. So that's, I guess, is a good example of a usability fix, because it's super low impact on the code. Basically, no work to be done from my end, and it had a really high impact. It's maybe on a different page if this is all like super semantically correct from the standpoint of UI components, but for us, the immediate usability impact definitely trumped whatever higher-minded considerations one can do there. Yes, please. Ah, okay. Mm. Okay, okay. Yeah, I guess for the people listening from home, Xenia just mentioned that the title here is also not helping. I guess do you already have a suggestion for a change, or is that a bug that you're going to write, or?
No, you've already done it. It's been less informative.
How smart of me. All right, thanks. Moving on. Another example of an invisible button. Alexandra already mentioned some problems with the full LOM editor, which is understandably a bit overwhelming. But people in the usability test already failed a step before that. They were not even able to enter the editor, because this. I guess I can show that in ILIAS 9. Bear with me for a second. Thank you. So this is how the screen looks in ILIAS 9. Here the button to enter the full DOM editor is a bulky button, which basically spans the whole screen. And I guess that plus the color maybe also made it not apparently obvious that this is clickable. So most people didn't even try to hover over it or click on it. So we just made it a normal button and moved it to the toolbar, because then everyone can spot that this is clickable.
And after we made that change locally on that installation, we did the tests on no participant after that failed opening the editor anymore. So this really did it. We made changes between tests, and in the retest, then we presented the changes, so we could go figure if this is sufficient now.
Yeah, and that's another thing we did, because we have control over this test platform. We were able to apply small patches and do like A and B testing, and that also really helped. So we didn't have to push everything to ILIAS to the full branch at once. Okay, I guess we are almost out of time, but let me show one more example of a small change with, I think, a large impact. So in the OER harvester cron job settings, that's where not the usability tests were applied, but the heuristic evaluation that Alexander was talking about. And they, as a result of that, Alexander and Xenia and Leon suggested new labels for these input fields, which were a bit more descriptive, and also they suggested to add headers in the form here, breaking it up a bit. And I think that also really helps with navigating this form. Because before it was just those two giant checklists, one after the other, which I guess was a bit disorienting. Yeah, so we already made some small changes based on the usability tests, but of course there were also some issues that can't be fixed with a small bug fix. So we are also working on features that we're going to add to ILIAS 11 to also take care of some other hiccups and rough spots in the process.
We would like to specifically present the form that people are presented with, the LOM quick edit, the bit where you land when you open the metadata tab. So this one captures the most important metadata bits that are required for repositories. Tim and I went through repositories of the world and figured that they, with a huge overlap, use the same metadata as filter criteria. And so these should be presented on the form. And we also need some room on this form, so we think that this also ISOR bit about the typical learning time should go, make some room for, it's not your fault, this is, no worries. Yeah, so we can append this form a bit to include the metadata to make sure that people do not necessarily have to fight the entire complexity of the full LOM metadata editor, which is some things for pros and should stay that way. So this is the layperson version where they should be able to just enter the data and then move on.
Yes.
And the publish button. The publish button.
Yeah, and I guess I can also talk about that shortly. Currently, the harvesting process and the publishing process is triggered by users choosing a harvestable copyright license. So it's kind of an implicit entrance into the process, which also came up in the usability tests. So we're also thinking about a publish button presented on this tab, which explicitly starts the publishing process. So that's also something we'd like to do for ILIAS 11, but as always, that depends on funding and yeah, if we have time to implement it. So let's take a final look if Leon wanted to talk about anything else. Yeah. Stuff to come. We want to continue with usability tests. So this was kind of the first wave. Now we're going to fix a bunch of stuff, and then we're going to do a second wave of usability tests and see if there are any other hiccups or if our fixes worked or not. We also want, this is once again in the under the umbrella of the BW OER Connect project, we also want to present some documentation to explain as low level as possible how an installation, an ILIAS installation, has to be configured in ILIAS 10 so that it can easily be coupled to an OER repository such as CIR. That is also on the agenda, and of course we want to do some more community work to tell all you about to tell all of you what's possible in ILIAS 10. Yeah, I think that about covers it.
I think this approach really held water. So we had a huge sprint of development in ILIAS 10, which was basically sketched at the table, and then in this project we said, okay, we take it from there and we don't just keep on implementing. We will sit down on the one hand side, do usability testing and look what people really stumble over and not what we think they do. That's the one hand side, so really evidence-based. And the other way to say, okay, we need to strategize properly and do community discussions about what they are really up to. And then, I don't know how they do it in Baden-Württemberg, but they got promised a next project. And so then we can really, for this third project, say, okay, we have a community-based, agreed-upon strategy on the one hand side with proper, reachable objectives and nicely chunked small projects on the one hand side, and on the other hand, we have really evidence how people can use this and how this is done. And so I feel this has worked well so far. And so this is something I've never done before like this, and I like the results so far very much.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.